Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. Today's is a haul, and just before I begin I want to mention that I'm currently feeling incredibly ill. I have a fever and my body's just shivering a lot and I've been drained of energy. So if I come across as though I have no energy, that's why. And okay, let's get going. So the past few months I've managed to grab a hold of some products which are useful for various reasons. So most recent, I got a hold of some Prismacolor Premier pencils. So if I zoom in, you'll see that they are white. So the reason why I've chosen to get some white pencils is because while I've been learning how to use colored pencils, I've realized that I prefer to blend with the white rather than with a colorless blender, and that's for a couple of reasons. The first is that it does provide a much smoother effect on the artwork, and I kind of like the way the white takes away the color as well on the artwork, because the white does tend to mix with the color and create a lighter version. I like that, especially as you can still layer on the colors again if you want the vibrancy to be there. And the colorless blender, by the way, doesn't change the color as you're blending, so if you do prefer to keep the color, maybe the colorless blender would be a better option for you, but I kind of like the white. The second reason why I like to blend with the white pencil instead of a colorless blender is because of the way it feels. It has a very, very creamy texture as opposed to the colorless blender, which has a very rough and gritty texture. And I think the reason why I prefer the creamier texture of the white pencil is because I have an adversity towards rough textures. So if I, for example, try to blend pastels with my fingers, it feels just, it kind of reminds me of nails on a chalkboard. That's what it feels like for me. That's how grossed out I am by it. So the smooth feeling that the Prismacolor gives is definitely a plus. I bought these off of eBay. So in the UK, if you have tried to get open stock Prismacolor pencils, you might have realized that they are way too expensive. So on Amazon, you might get an average of paying maybe £5 to £10, or a range, I should say, a range of paying £5 to £10 for just one Prismacolor pencil. And I have a feeling that's because there's really not much competition in the UK for selling these. There aren't very many sellers, so the very few sellers who do sell them open stock tend to sell them at just incredibly, terribly expensive prices. And that means that even though you can buy a pack of maybe 72 Prismacolor pencils for only £14, which is incredibly cheap, if you want to replace a pencil that you've been using, you have to pay more than 300%. That's just a rough estimate. More than 300% of what you'd have to pay for open stock polychromos, for example. And that's really not on when you consider that the polychromos are built much better than the Prismacolors. So anyway, on eBay recently I came across a seller who's been selling these pencils for, I'd say, reasonable prices. So I think I got this for about £1.80 something, and then postage was 90 something pence. And they also sent me their business card. So if you're in the UK and you're looking for reasonable prices when it comes to Prismacolor pencils, you can check these guys out. Word of warning though, I haven't bought from their online website, I bought it from eBay, but given how reliable they were, I think I would trust the seller to buy straight from their website. Okay, so let's move that aside. The next thing I bought were these two. So these are eraser pencils. So this blue one is from Staedtler, and although I initially took off this sticky thing, I put it back on because the pencil had taken off the glue and felt incredibly sticky. That would annoy me as I'm using it. So this is how they arrive. They are already sharpened, not to a point. I'm not sure if this will get any sharper than this. And they have the brush on the end. So then this one here is the faber-castell version, has a brush on the end as well. And this is what, well, that's easier to see. And this is the point, I think the sharpest point that it will get to. And the reason why I bought these is because in my worst purchases video, I listed the, the Derwent pencil eraser. And the reason why I listed it is because although I love the idea of the eraser pencil, this one is just a little bit too soft, so that it doesn't keep its point, making it kind of useless when it comes to erasing details, but I do like the brush on the end. So under that video I got a couple of recommendations for other eraser pencils that I can try, and I trust both Faber-Castell and Staedtler because I have their pencil sets, and other products that I have of theirs are always of high quality, so of course I wanted to try these out. And eventually I will do a review, possibly a review or a different kind of video showcasing how these three eraser pencils compare to each other. So putting that aside, the next thing I bought, wrong way, sorry. I always do that. So the next thing I bought was the Daler Rowney layout paper. So layout paper is just incredibly thin paper, which isn't quite as thin as tracing paper, but it's thin enough so that if you want to trace, you can easily trace with it. So I think, you know what, let's try and explain that in a better way. So layout paper is used by illustrators so that when they're creating their artwork, if they make a mistake in it but they don't want to have to redraw the entire thing out, you can use this paper to trace the image onto it and then make your corrections on it, and then you can take the illustration on this paper and scan it in, and even though it's quite thin paper, apparently it will scan in with the white showing up as true white, as though you had scanned from a normal thickness paper. So this is incredibly convenient for me because I'm in the middle of illustrating my children's book, and there are a few illustrations where I've made quite glaring errors, but I'm also a very lazy person and I don't want to have to draw out the entire illustration again just to fix one little mistake. So I got this layout paper hoping that I can trace the image and just fix the little mistakes that are there before scanning the illustration into my computer and printing it out onto a larger A3 page to finally illustrate by hand. Okay. Next we hairband. Next we have a Sea White sketchbook. So this is one that I bought for my cousin. Her birthday was in August, but I'm always late when it comes to giving gifts. Plus she doesn't mind, so it's okay. So I haven't opened the packaging on this Sea White sketchbook. This is the A5 size. You can literally see everything. You can see I'm wearing my PJs. But if you want to see the way the cover looks, this is my Sea White sketchbook. And the cover is a black cloth cover. The Sea White sketchbooks are my all-time favourite sketchbooks, which is why I bought her one of my favourites. Obviously I wasn't going to buy her something I didn't like, and hopefully she'll like it as much as I do. Bear in mind though that this sketchbook is really good when it comes to dry media like charcoal pencils. It's good with coloured pencils as well. It's actually pretty good with ink, surprisingly, but you can only get away with light washes when it comes to watercolour, and it does bleed a lot when you use markers. So it's my favourite sketchbook, but it's probably my favourite because I tend to use a lot of dry media like graphite pencils anyway, and recently coloured pencils because I've only been learning how to use that for, well, I don't even know how much time because, okay, let's just move on. Oh my gosh! The final group of my purchases are books. Some of these are bought new and the vast majority of them are bought second-hand. So the two new copies I have are both from Andrew Loomis, and just a warning, if you don't like nudity, the next cover here has nudity in it, but it's art, not pornography. So the first one is, oh, let's move this up here. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting it in. It's Drawing the Head and Hands by Andrew Loomis. I've only read just the tiniest bit of it. You can see my bookmarks in there. But I can already tell you, just by reading a few of the first pages, that this is definitely the best book I have on learning how to draw the head. Not sure about the hands because I'm not even close to reaching that stage. One of my biggest pet peeves when I have bought how to draw books before is that they tend to only focus a small amount on each subject. And for me personally, I think that you can go into so much more detail on how to draw certain things. And drawing the head and the hands is one of those things that I think the how to draw books have lacked in, which is why I bought this book in the first place. This entire book right here deals with just the head and the hands. So I love this book. So far, and I would recommend it. The next one is Figure Drawing for All It's Worth, again by Andrew Loomis. And I'll just give you a little insight into the book. I haven't yet started to read this, but I don't doubt for even a minute, or even a second actually, that I will enjoy this book just as much as I have enjoyed the other book, even though I've only read like 2 pages. So sorry again for anyone who doesn't like nude images, but truthfully, if you want to learn to draw people, you kind of do have to draw them nude. Otherwise your figures and your people will somehow never look right. Okay, so the next 2 books are watercolor painting books. I haven't read through either of these except for a little bit on this one. This one is Step by Step Watercolor Painting by the Alexander brothers, and it was published a long time ago, long time ago, which is probably why it's not in print now, although I've been really fortunate to find this in my local charity shop. Got some swatches here that I did just to get me started with the book. Literally, I've only practiced doing some flat washes, which is probably the first couple of pages in this book. So I haven't gotten very far. And if I just try and show you some of the artwork in here. I got this book actually because I really loved the building paintings. Hang on, let me find some. Now all of a sudden I can't find them at all. Yeah, stuff like this. I wonder if you can see. I just think it looks really pretty. Yeah, actually this is a better example. This one is Cats Drawing and Painting in Watercolor by Leslie Fofferby. And I just thought these cats look so pretty. And I had to definitely get it because in the review there was a person who commented saying that they didn't like the book because the cat paintings were just a little bit too realistic, and I love realism. And any book that can teach me how to use watercolors in a little bit more of a realistic way is a definite bonus for me. This is so pretty. Oh no, you can't see it properly. As for the rest of these books, I bought them specifically for the reference photos. So as an artist, I have personally found it incredibly difficult to find photos that I want to draw from. And I know you can go to Google and search anything, cats, dogs, whatever, and get a bunch of photos. But for me, they tend to be a little bit more stylized on Google. They tend to be more photography pieces, more about angles and perspective than they are about allowing us to see an animal in, what's the word I'm looking for? Without any distortion, so that as an artist I can learn to draw the animal in proportion. So buying books with pictures is a better route for me personally. The first book I bought was this martial arts book, and eventually I will be doing figure studies on this. And I specifically bought it because I knew it was going to have a buttload of pictures based on the reviews it had on Amazon. This one I think I got from Abe Books a while back. Okay, so the next one I got was from a local charity shop. Actually, in the week that I bought this, I also bought every other book here. It was like one of those weeks where something that you desperately needed was just available wherever you went. It was a really good week for me. So I bought this from one of the charity shops, and it has a range of pictures when it comes to cats. Not just, for example, pictures of the breeds and little descriptions, for example, of the type of fur that they have, maybe the size of their eyes, etc. It doesn't just have these, but it does have sections where it shows the cats moving about like they would normally. So if I go down to the end, yeah, so here you can see them. Oh, I thought I was accidentally showing you the page where the cat was giving birth. That would have been a little bit inappropriate for YouTube, but if you take a look at these pages, you can see that they have the cats playing in their natural habitat, or the natural way that they play, not natural habitat. And just by having these, I can also learn to sketch cats moving. So I think this is one of the most convenient books that I have when it comes to reference photos. So that again is Ultimate Cat by David Taylor. Sorry, that is upside down. I barely have any room to show you guys this. Okay, so the next one is on dogs. And again, this goes through a bunch of breeds. And the shots are perfect. This is perfect for an artist wanting to learn about proportion, because it's a direct shot, which means that the likelihood is that there is no distortion when it comes to the size of the legs or the head. In other words, there's no foreshortening where one part of the body is much larger than it would be if you were looking directly on at the subject. Okay, maybe there's a little bit of foreshortening or whatever going on in these, but it's pretty much accurate. And what I really like about these books as well is that they have the breeds of the dogs, which means that if I like any of these, I can then just go Google them and look for interesting shots of them. This one is cute. This is my favorite dog. He's so cute. Look at him, he looks so sad. Actually, this one is really cute as well. Okay, let's just put that aside. The last two books are on horse riding. I got this book and this book from the same charity shop, but the rest of these are from a completely different charity shop, and the one on martial arts was from online. So I found this one first. I bought this because it has so many wonderful shots of horses, like this, for instance. Let's see if I can get this in. Okay, maybe sideways. Let's find a better one actually. But I love this because it has so many beautiful shots of the horses running, jumping, just standing around. It has a lot of shots which show foreshortening. It just has a wide variation that I found incredibly convenient. But something that this book is missing, and which I was incredibly lucky enough to have the gap closed by finding this book, is close-ups. So this book has a tremendous amount of close-ups, which lets me see, for example, the fur details on the horses. Look at this one. This is so cute. You're so cute. Oh, and right next to it, you can see the fur details. So that's something you can't see in this book right here. So if I wanted to, for example, do a graphite pencil artwork of horses, I wouldn't know how to even begin with a fur, but this book allows me to see all the close-ups. Come on. This is my favorite. I think one of the things that I found incredibly difficult as an artist is finding good reference books. And that's mostly because when I'm searching on Amazon and you look at the preview of the book, the preview usually has the first section, which has the introduction on it, but it doesn't necessarily show you the amount of photos that it has in it. So I'm always conflicted as to whether I should spend £15 on a book which may not have the amount of reference photos that I need in it. So having gone to my local charity shops and been incredibly fortunate enough to find these books and being able to look through them myself, I have been able to find some incredibly referenced books. And I'm not saying that your local charity shop will also have books that make great reference books for you, but I would highly recommend going to your charity shop and seeing if they have any nice selection of books. It's just my biggest tip, I think, because you never know what you can find there, and I am just incredibly shocked that people actually had books like this and then gave them away to the charity shops. The most convenient finds for me are these two books, and that's because in one of my books, which I'm in the middle of editing right now and probably hopefully will be ready for release in April next year, as long as I can get the cover artwork done. In there I have some characters which will have features of a horse. So just by having reference photos of a horse, it's really helping me develop my characters for that book. And yeah, this I don't know why I said and, there's really nothing more to it. These two are helping me with my current project, and the rest of these are helping me just to become a slightly better artist. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this haul. I know it's not the most interesting video, and maybe the stuff I've got aren't as interesting as other people's, but it gives an insight into the projects that I'm working on right now, namely my books, because a lot of these stuff that I have bought are related to my books. I've actually got a whole load of other books that I bought from the charity shops, but I'm not going to include them because they're more to do with the book illustration side of things, and they're actually just children's books. And the reason why I bought them is because I wanted examples of the different illustration styles. I don't know if that's really interesting for this kind of video, especially as this is mostly purely an art channel and I haven't really brought in the illustration side in yet, so that's why I'm choosing not to include them. But if you guys are interested in following the book side of me and the writing and the children book illustrating side of things, then you can always follow my blog, which will be in the description below. Having trouble speaking, so I think it's time that I end this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.